During the most recent Walt Disney Company earnings call, CEO Bob Iger gave folks seemingly a lot of reason to celebrate, none the least of which a new $1.5 billion stake in Epic Games. Or how about a partnership with Fox and Warner Brothers to create a new sports streaming giant? You know, on that day and the following day, investors celebrated, driving the Walt Disney stock price up 10 to 12% almost overnight. But now that paint is starting to come off exactly as we thought it would, in the sense that, well, things weren't all cracked up as they seemed to be. Bob Iger's primary objective right now is, frankly, getting rid of Nelson Peltz, Ike Perlmutter, Jay Rasulo, and, frankly, everybody involved in Try-In. And apart from a new lawsuit from Gina Carano, you can throw in yet another one from a new outfit taking Disney to court that would stem from a recent landmark Supreme Court decision involving DEI in academia, specifically Harvard. It was only a matter of time before that would trickle down to the corporate world, and now it looks like it has, and thanks in no small part to people like Christopher Rufo, who recently released some videos of both Bob Iger and Bob Chapek from several years ago talking about Disney's initiative into its new race-based hiring and promotion practices. And then, of course, Nelson Peltz isn't too keen to just let things slide because, just like me, Peltz and Try-In recognize the truth of Bob Iger's pomp and circumstance during that Disney earnings call, and it is this. It was a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment below the video before you head out the door today. Make sure to join us Sunday afternoons at 6 p.m. Eastern right here for the live show, and we're going to have one for you today. Bob Iger got everybody excited during that earnings call. Look at all the cool new stuff. Look at all the jingling keys that we can throw in your face to try to get rid of Nelson Peltz, boost the stock price with some big fancy new ideas that may or may not ever come to fruition, or at least in the sense that we're presenting him to you on this earnings call now. One of which, of course, was the $1.5 billion investment in Epic Games. Let's see what that looks like. Still really don't know. But when it comes to the streaming service with the sports conglomerate between Warner Brothers and Fox, there's obviously some big issues here that should have raised red flags in people's minds right off the bat. And this was a big reason why the stock price, in my opinion, I think, pushed up in the next day. But now the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, and the Federal Communication Commission, the FCC, are going to step in and scrutinize this deal under antitrust laws. And it's not just about the three of these getting together to do their thing and provide a streaming service with sports. It's about how come Paramount wasn't involved? CBS. CBS has one half of the NFL, the AFC division. That's the division the Chiefs play in, for example. Well, that all gets broadcast on a station that is not part of this service. Or how about NBC Comcast? They're not involved. I wonder why. Comcast is the biggest cable provider in the United States, and Disney and them are in a deal right now with Hulu, trying to get Hulu from Comcast, and then, of course, also with the recent Charter Spectrum kerfuffle that Disney went through. Comcast is going to be next up on the block looking for that Spectrum deal. So it seems not all that unusual that Disney wouldn't actually partner up with somebody who's a broadcaster that also has their own cable service to deliver. And speaking of Comcast and NBC, yeah, the fellas at Comcast and NBC are asking the very same question, don't you know? This from our friend Alex Sherman over there. Pay TV distributors may be planning their attack against the new sports joint venture. I think one of the big and most interesting questions that will come from this is, what are the legal implications here? Is this new sports streaming conglomerate going to be held as somewhat of a breach of contract with people like Comcast and Charter Spectrum that deliver these cable programming, these live sports programming through traditional linear broadcast to customers now? what is this big conglomerate sports streaming going to do to them? Because Nelson Peltz even wasn't all that impressed with Mr. Iger's performance during the earnings call and came to a lot of the same conclusions that, frankly, we did during the call itself. Here's a letter to Disney shareholders that he just issued from Trian on February 12th. Spaghetti on the wall will not feed shareholders starved of returns. And of course, that spaghetti on the wall was exactly the sort of thing that we just talked about. This new sports conglomerate streaming service with Fox and Warner and the $1.5 billion deal with Epic Games. Like we asked during that call, like I asked in a subsequent video, where's the traditional Disney content? Where is the current IP and the property that Disney owns now? There wasn't a whole lot of color given or guidance going forward given to what that was going to look like. What are you doing really right now to save Marvel? Where is Star Wars? Why are we reporting on earnings reports that the Star Wars merchandise has basically fallen off a cliff? And the only thing moving for Marvel currently right now is Spider-Man. Or hey, what are you doing to compete with what Universal Studios is about to do to you in Orlando in 2025 when they open their next gate called Epic Universe? There seem to be no answers from Bob Iger and Disney for any of that. Peltz says Disney's spaghetti against the wall plan includes $1.5 billion in strategic investments that, according to Disney's own current chief financial officer, lacks a product roadmap or expected return targets, and a sports streaming venture that very likely confused consumers, surprised important content partners like Comcast and Charter, and competes with the company's own internal services. And those internal services would include Hulu, for example, that right now Disney is going to spend over $10 billion to buy the remaining stake from Comcast. Or how about the ESPN direct-to-consumer streaming service that Bob Iger promised us was coming? How does that impact Disney's own ESPN service if they're going to give away all the same programming on a conglomerate service with Fox and Warner? This is a mess. These are all legitimate questions because it's all just key jangling at this point. And some of this key jangling might not even pass muster with federal regulators. Then we got this news from America First Legal, who filed a federal civil rights complaint against the Walt Disney Company for illegal race and sex discrimination. This, of course, followed a couple of videos and some releases recently from Christopher Rufo that were also retweeted and commented on by none other than Elon Musk. Surprise, surprise.
I'm very proud of a lot of the work we've done in terms of diversity and inclusion on screen.
We're not only increasing the pace of creating new content, as Bob had mentioned, but also increasing the diversity of creators and themes within that content.
But surprise, surprise, the mainstream media is largely ignoring this because right now it's all about getting Bob Iger through the next 2 months to make it to the annual shareholder meeting in April and elect a new board, preferably the one that Bob Iger has put forward himself and not the others from activist firms like Trian with Nelson Peltz and Jay Rasillo. And this entire story, as we mentioned in the introduction, is based around the Supreme Court decision from last summer in 2023 that said, no, Harvard University, you can't use race as a primary determining factor to hand out admissions, scholarships, or what have you. Now, some people can argue this either way, depending on how they interpret things like federal statute or even constitutional law. We're going to cover that in more depth during the live show in just a couple of hours, so make sure you're here for that. But regardless, the bottom line is this was going to trickle down into corporate America, and now it has. And I doubt Disney will be the last one to face such a legal challenge in federal court over its discriminatory practices using race as a primary driver for hiring. We hope to see you on the live show today. Make sure you're there for that one because we will have a lot to discuss with the panel of experts, and we're going to add some more color to all of these stories with our thoughts and analysis. So we hope to see you there. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.